Hey there, this video is going to be all about how to properly use exogenous ketones. So if you don't know what exogenous ketones are, they're basically supplements that are actual ketones which come from an exogenous source, which means outside of your body, and you put them in and your body can use them basically just as efficiently as it would use its own ketones. So that also implies about how efficiently your body is able to use ketones, how adapted you are. But overall, this supplement is something that I really like, and I want to teach people how to use it because there's a lot of people who don't know how to use this stuff. And as somebody who works part-time at a supplement store, I hear a lot of people come in and don't know how to actually use these things, or even people who work in these stores don't know how to tell people how to use these things. So there's a lot of misinformation. So I'm going to start off because this product is actually really useful as a nootropic. So if you don't know what nootropics are, they're basically brain supplements. And I've tried a lot of nootropics in the past, pretty much all of them. And as far as which ones I'd actually use on a daily basis, this is really one of them, especially if I'm dieting. So the focus enhancements are really big, and I've noticed better focus on these supplements and on a smaller dose of these supplements than on other actual more expensive nootropics. But this effect will be enhanced if you're actually on a keto diet. If you're not on a keto diet, you might actually feel a little bit less focused because it depends on your body's ability to use ketones. And if you're not in a ketogenic state at all, or your body's never been in one, right, consciously on a diet, then what would happen is you might even feel a drop in blood sugar. So that might actually affect your focus. So if you're on a keto diet and you want to use these for nootropic purposes, you can totally go right ahead. And I'm actually going to make another video on that because it's a really, really useful and underknown nootropic supplement. So as far as that is your concern for nootropics, that's all I'm going to say. You can watch my video on nootropics if you want, or keto nootropics. But for weight loss, so a lot of people will use this stuff for weight loss, and you have to be very careful about how you want to use exogenous ketones as weight loss supplements. So think about your body's sources of energy. It's predominantly going to be ketones and fatty acids on a keto diet. So if you're on a keto diet and you're using this stuff, what's going to happen is your body is going to prioritize using the exogenous source, so the bunch of ketones you just flushed into your system, and it's going to use those first before it starts producing its own. Your body is a survival machine, and it always wants to use the easiest energy. Easiest energy. So exogenous ketones for fat loss is much more of a consequential play, because if you use these too much, it can affect your fat loss. You'll feel really good, and it will enhance your ketosis. However, you got to be careful, and in such a way that I'll just describe right now. So the thing is, if you're still hitting your calorie goals and you're taking these exogenous ketones, you'll be set. It won't affect your fat loss necessarily. You don't want to be taking these with a meal because it kind of will defeat the purpose. If you're taking these with a meal, you're going to be more insulin sensitive to the meal. So that's better because that means ketones increase your insulin sensitivity, and you'll have a better distribution and flushing through of all the nutrients in your food into your body. However, it will take you out of ketosis because eating anything is going to raise your insulin, whether it's carby or not, protein or not, and insulin is going to basically kick you out of a ketogenic state. So it's going to defeat the purpose of using these, at least in the short term. So if you set your calorie goals and you still hit them, you'll be in a decent progress with your ketosis supplementation. It won't affect anything. However, if you're taking these and not hitting your calorie goals or going too high, like I said, your body's not going to want to produce its own ketones. So that's a key distinction you're going to want to wrap your head around. When it comes to intermittent fasting on a fat loss program, you can use this, for example, strategically to extend a fast for perhaps. So if you take this in just after your last meal, get a couple hours after your last meal, where your insulin spike has already dropped and you're starting to enter the fasted state. If you take this in the beginning of a fasted state, you are definitely going to notice appetite suppression. To me, this is actually the best appetite suppressing supplement I've ever tried, and especially if you're on a ketogenic diet. So the theory behind that is ketones are your body's, when you supplement with them, they're a very easy to use energy source, and your body is not going to be as hungry if it has an abundance of ketones. That's why a lot of people tell you to eat very high fat on this diet, which isn't necessary. But in order for your body to produce really high ketones, you would have to eat lots of fat. And that's not really the most conducive to fat loss all the time. In the beginning of a fat loss period, it will. However, at the end of a fat loss phase, you're not going to want to be eating crap loads of fat, because that's going to, again, cause the same problem. Force your body to use ketones from the plate rather than ketones from your body. And if you are doing an intermittent fast, this can really extend a fast because it will crush your appetite basically. And I've done some of my longest fasts with exogenous ketone supplementation. And if your goal is fat loss on an intermittent fast, then yes, this will help you increase your fasting period, which may in turn allow you to lower your amounts of food consumed at your first meal or your next meal. So as a result of the appetite suppressing effects, which can extend a fast, you'll have a shorter eating window and you may eat less food. So that's a great way to use these for fat loss. However, you're not just going to want to be sipping on these all day if your goal is fat loss. It can be used to extend an intermittent fast, shorten your eating window, and it can allow you to kind of amp up your body's ketone production. So if you take this at the beginning of a fast and you take a small serving, your body is first going to use these and elevate its blood ketones. As a result of elevating those blood ketones, afterwards your body's still going to be in the process of using ketones. So it's going to be more likely to produce some of its own ketones after you run through that cycle of exogenous ketones you just flushed into your body. So as far as performance concerned, I'm going to start off with cardio for fat loss because that's the most similar to the recent topic I was saying, which is fat loss. So if you're doing cardio for fat loss, so you're doing your Stairmaster, your treadmill, jumping rope, whatever it is, you do not necessarily want to take these before cardio because, like I said, it's going to incite your body to use ketones from the supplement rather than its own production. However, if you're doing this for performance, you can go nuts on the exogenous ketones. If your goal is not necessarily fat loss, right? Because if your goal is fat loss, you're probably doing 20-30 minutes of cardio after every gym session. So you don't want to be taking these beforehand because that will basically ruin a lot of the results of your cardio because it will, again, incite your body to use those exogenous ketone source rather than its own. However, you can use them if you're doing an intermittent fast and then you're doing cardio in that period. You can use them in the beginning of the fast, go through the day, do your training, do your cardio, go through, and perhaps that will allow you to delay your meal after the workout. So that's another way to use it fat loss wise strategically. But if your goal is performance, you don't need to worry about this. For me, what I actually do is I've had days where I fasted like 20 hours or so and then went and played a soccer game with exogenous ketones supplemented right before the soccer game, and I've felt great and performed great. So it's very useful for increasing performance, especially anything that's aerobic. So anything cardio-wise, ketones are going to be huge. Ketones are a very available energy source for anything aerobic, which means with oxygen. So, light intensity with moderate intensity, or moderate intensity with a little bit of high intensity activity thrown in there is going to be very useful for exogenous ketone supplementation. For example, like the soccer games I'm explaining. I'd be jogging around most of the time, quick sprints here and there, and if you're fat adapted, you'll actually have a little more glycogen in your muscles, which will be even better for performance reasons. So on to performance with weights and strength training and high intensity stuff. High intensity exercise, this stuff can be very useful. If you're on a keto diet, using this stuff will enhance your performance for all aerobic related activity. If you're fat adapted on keto, like I said, you'll have that benefit of the stored glycogen and you'll have better aerobic resources for any aerobic activity you're doing that's part of your high intensity regimen. So if you're doing weight training, for example, and you're hitting a bench press, right? And you're starting off with your heaviest set and then doing some progressively, less intense sets. You can use exogenous ketones, and if you're fat adapted, what will happen is all the glycogen from your muscles that are stored will be used for your most intense activities, and then the rest of your lifts will have plenty of fuel for burning out and a lot of reps that you will be breathing during. So if you're doing a 2-rep max, you're probably not going to be breathing too much while you're pressing. If you're breathing a lot during, getting a 12-rep set, you will be totally fine, and exogenous ketones will be a great aerobic resource for you. You won't need the glycogen. However, take that and, you know, apply it to yourself depending on what exercise you're doing. So if you're doing very high intense activity that requires glycogen, you can even be fine without ketone supplementation. I only take it on some days that I do intense weightlifting. Most of the time I do it without the ketone supplement. However, on some days, if you need a little boost, or if you need a little kick, or if you're going for a very high rep day or a long fast while you're working out, you can definitely take these and get a little bit of a performance benefit, but don't take too much to the point where you're taking a full scoop of these things, because what will happen is, like I said, you'll have that problem where your body is not going to want to produce its own energy source while you're working out and not oxidize its own ketones for your aerobic portions of your exercise. Instead, it will use the ketones from the supplement. So that's the whole main thing you have to wrap your head around, is the timing of this is heavily dependent on what activity you're doing and what your eating schedule is like. Because I've had people who come in to talk to me at GNC, at my part-time job, and they're telling me that they were told to sip on this all day. They're told to sip on this regardless of what their, you know, regimen is. And really, if you're on your feet all day, you don't need to be taking these. If you're sitting in an office all day, you don't need to be taking these unless you really want to focus. You can use it for an office job or desk job, something that doesn't require you to run around. Even if it does require you to run around, you can take these, but you don't want to overdo it. And onto actual dosing of these supplements, if you are in a ketogenic state, because that's one thing to wrap your head around here, is that this supplement will work completely differently if you're in a keto state, a fat adapted state, or a carb metabolism. So it works completely differently, well, slightly differently, but significantly differently for each of those states. So if you're in a keto state and you take this, yes, you will have increased performance, you'll have increased mental performance, and anything aerobic, you will have way better performance. Fat loss wise, again, you have to not overdo it, but that's convenient because your dosing of this supplement, if you're on a keto diet, can be very low, and you can really draw the life out of this supplement very long. I typically have like less than half of a scoop with every time I use a supplement on keto. When I'm not in keto, or when I'm trying to get back into keto, I will use, you know, a full scoop, a full serving of this supplement. And so the point is, if you're not in this diet, you'll have to use higher dose of this supplement to get back into ketosis. And if you're somebody who routinely hops in and out of keto, you know, maybe you can use half a scoop to hop back in. However, if you're somebody who is not on a keto metabolism and you're using this supplement, yeah, you'll probably have good results, but there's a very good chance that you'll, instead of just increasing both your carb energy resources and your fat energy resources, is a good chance that you'll probably just drop your blood sugars to the point where you don't really have as much focus or performance benefit. So on a keto metabolism, this stuff is great. Use it sparingly. Use small amounts of the dose, and it can almost be like a primer for, you know, amping up your body's ketone production, especially if you're fasting. Like I said, so I'll end off by telling you my example of my usage, because when I'm taking this day to day, which I don't take every day, on the days I do take this, it's a small serving, a very small amount, and I typically do it during a fast, in the beginning of the fast, or during a fast where I'm going to be working out or doing a lot of focus work. So basically, if I have a lot of work to do, or something where I'm sitting down and need to focus and make a lot of videos, I'll take some exogenous ketones before, so I can get my mind straight and get everything sorted. So on a keto metabolism, use them, but use them in small doses. People will tell you to have higher amounts of this stuff. People will tell you, especially if they work in a supplement store like me, they probably will tell you that you need a full scoop. You don't. You need a small kick, a small boost, and I rarely exceed half of a scoop for the supplements that I use. I use the Athletic Alliance brand, which is a great supplement brand, Canadian as well. But that's my 2 cents on exogenous ketones, how to use them. If you want to learn more about their nootropic effects, I have a video on that as well. Anything else you'd want to learn about keto, I'd be happy to answer in the comments or on my Instagram. So let me know, and I hope you like this video and learn something from it. My name is Anthony Romano. Peace.